Hey, welcome everybody to Getting a Grip. I am your host, Mike Maddox. I am so excited to be with you today and to talk about business excellence, operational excellence, how you achieve it, how you get healthy, how you get a self-maintaining business. That's what we do on this program. My guest this episode, I'm really excited to introduce because it's a fantastic company right here in Lansing, Michigan. I have two guests. I have the visionary and the integrator, John Addis, the visionary, and Tony Sabo, the integrator at Addis Enterprises. Welcome, guys, to the program.
Thanks for having us, Mike.
So good to have you. There's so many things I want to get into on this episode and talk to you guys about. But before we begin, if some of the listeners out there may not be familiar with Addis Enterprises, John, why don't you give us a little bit of background and tell the audience a little bit about what you guys do?
Sure. So we're a 15-person, well, for the full-time, 15-person design and marketing firm here in Lansing. We do pretty much everything that our clients could possibly need for whatever campaigns that they are running. Could be video production, web design, graphic design, print, real world stuff, 3D animation, original music composition, all whatever they need, we can handle in-house, which tends to make things a lot more consistent across multiple media platforms and tend to be a little bit cheaper as well, when you have one team that's able to do all of those components. And this is a business that I originally founded from my college dorm over at Michigan State University. All the original invoices have remit payment to 348 East Landon Hall, which I'm sure was violation of some dorm term of service. But yeah, and then I'd served as creative director of a couple of different other companies throughout my career. But in 2014, I decided to come back and just restart my company full time. I brought Tony over, who I'd been working with for 4 years at that point at another company, and yeah, it's just been going quite strong.
That's outstanding. I love that you started this in a dorm room. That's such a great entrepreneurial story, and just just the fortitude it takes to get a company off the ground. And I just think that's tremendous. So, on Getting a Grip, we talk about how this system, EOS, the system of tools and processes, helps companies get alignment on their vision, build traction and accountability, and really start to operate in a healthier way. In an effort to get them to the point where they're getting everything they want out of their business. And it's a journey. And I know that you guys are on that journey, and I'm privileged to be on that journey with you, but I'd like you to just kind of talk about what made you decide to begin the journey in the first place. If you go back to pre-EOS, what were some of the things that were rumbling around inside of your head, or thoughts or frustrations? Anything come to mind?
I'll tag that one real quickly. I personally just I've done a couple personal projects with Mike, like Kingdom Builders and everything, and we kind of lost touch for a couple of years. And I wanted to segue back in to just hang out with Mike again. So John came with me one day and was like, "Hey man, Mike wants to meet with us with this really cool idea." And I was like, "Boom, I'm in." Like that was the segue to get back to having a relationship with you, Mike.
There's not many people that would use that as the reason to move forward, Tony. So I appreciate that, brother.
Yeah. But I'll let John take the rest.
Yeah. So obviously, Mike, as you know, you had reached out to me. We had done a lot of work together. We had done marketing stuff for you back in the day, and you just had said, "Oh, let me buy you coffee and tell you about what I'm doing now," and kind of talked about EOS, which I had never heard of. Which is funny because we have run into the last 3 or 4 clients that we've gotten happen to be an EOS run system, and they are very excited about EOS. So I'm actually kind of surprised I hadn't heard about EOS before you pitched it to me. But must be one of those things like you hear about some TV show you never heard of, and then everybody is talking about it, right? So it must be one of those types of things. But yeah, I had actually recently, I think at the time that we were talking, I was either looking into or maybe it just started going back to school for an MBA program, because there was a lot of stuff that I knew I didn't know. And now I had all these 100 clients relying on me to be business knowledgeable. I had 15 staff persons relying on me to make good business decisions. And up until that point, it really was, more or less winging it. I did not have any business background, never taken a econ course or anything in my life. We didn't even have a business plan for the business. We just kept growing. So it was really good timing because I was in that mindset of thinking about like what more do I need to know to make smart decisions. And I'm finishing up that MBA program next month, and it's been fun to see the overlap of, because EOS, as you said, Mike, it's not like it's a magic formula that no one's ever thought of. It's essentially this entire MBA program that I've been taking, an MBA in entrepreneurship. EOS is like a Cliff's Notesy version of a lot of the stuff that I spent the last couple of years learning about, all the accountability charts and right people, right seats and rocks and all of those things. Those are all touched on in MBA programs, but EOS seems to just make it simple so that even people who are not taking an MBA program, it makes sense to them too. I think that's why the team has responded so well to it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, there's so much in your answer there. The way I look at it, and I did get a business degree, but the way I look at it is these principles and these tools, as I've said to you all and to many others, EOS didn't create them. They've been around forever. What EOS does is pulls them together into a system that you can implement as an entrepreneur, as a growing business. And you mentioned your work, you and Tony doing work with me back when I was in my entrepreneurial days, and I was scaling and growing an IT company. Phenomenal work. In fact, I was watching some of the old videos the other day, and including the blooper reel, which just made me laugh all over again. But the in those days, I felt the same way. Like I knew the elements of good business, but I didn't have a way to really pull them all together, right? And I think that's what you're saying, John, is that this gives you the ability to pull them together in a context that works for your team.
Yeah, and my MBA program, like I love what I've learned. I'm super excited about the detail and the depth, but I would not, if I had just taken that program, I would not have been able to distill that down into something that I could have like just rolled out to the team. Like, hey guys, I just learned like a couple years worth of business stuff. Uh, yeah, I think my team would be like, okay, great. What do you want us to do differently? And I'm not sure I would have had any concrete steps that
On
anyone
how
could
to
have
make it
followed.
actionable, right? I mean,
Yeah.
how to make, yeah, no,
So it
I
was good
think
for
that,
my knowledge. I'm glad I did it, but like EOS is the only way that could have been translated to a business, I would say, at least from
yeah, I
us.
agree. Yeah, Tony, I'm interested in this. The next question that jumps to my head is you're in the integrator seat, which those listeners that are really familiar with the US format and program will know that that's a linchpin, that's a critical seat. They're all critical seats, but the integrator is the role that holds that leadership team together, sometimes buffers the visionary, uh, supports the visionary's vision, executes on it. So there's a lot in that dynamic. What's the dynamic been like for you and John as you've moved into the integrator seat? John settled into his visionary role. What's that been like?
It's really, I would say, changed our business and our personal relationship for the best. I think it's opened up the line of communication and honesty a lot. If there's been some issues that we faced in the uh, past of John, John being a visionary, he's a dreamer. He's got big dreams. He wants to do them all at once, and if anyone can do it, it's actually John.
Yeah.
I've seen him write books. I've seen him produce videos and edits, and then he's doing his MBA. I mean, he's got 1,000 things that go and wants it. If anyone can do it, again, he can. But I think it's changed our relationship with just me being honest and just taking a step back. And when we have our monthly VI meeting, Visionary Integrator meeting, he throws out those big dreams, and it's kind of fun to be like, you know what, I love that idea, but let's put that on hold. Let's not create burnout for you and for the team, and let's move that maybe to the next quarter or the next year. But I think just the honesty, it's been good to, like, when you have scheduled meetings, it's so much easier just to like just get on the same page, and weekly. the first question we had for you, Mike, was when we do our L10 meetings, can we do those every other week or once a month? And you're like, no, we really need to do them once a week. And it's helped John and I when we meet before these L10s to just really get on the same page with the business and what are we gonna ideas talk about today, and again just being honest with each other. I think I've been able to take some stuff off John's plate and give him a little sense of like, man, I don't have to do this all on my own. Being a visionary, I think it's just like, man, I feel like I have to do everything on my own. And before EOS, it probably was a lot like that. But now that I've stepped in as a visionary, I think just, hey man, what can I take off your plate? What can we do this week to meet these goals? What can we push off? Yeah, it's really strengthened our relationship here at Addis Enterprises.
Yeah, I think
That's
that
awesome to hear.
just to add to a quick that notice that Tony said he doesn't, it's not that he's telling me no, he's telling me like that's a cool idea, let's plan for it. This quarter
Yeah,
is swamped. How about we prioritize that next quarter? And even just that framing of things, I think really helps in the kind of like too many ideas visionary framework. It's like, oh yeah, that's not a no, that's a when does it make sense? And that's a different way of thinking about life in general for me.
that's such a good point that you brought up, Tony and John. What you added to, because I'm thinking back to my days as a visionary, and it was a journey for me to get comfortable in that position. But same thing happened in my case, whereas I had too many ideas, and many of them were good, but you can't do everything at once, right? If everything's important, nothing is. As a business, you have to maintain focus. That's what you're touching on, Tony, is let's get really focused. Let's be focused on executing on the vision you already gave us, John, right? And then we can execute on other visions as we move forward, um, and maintain that sense of sanity and traction with the team. And I think you're right, John. That helps. It's not a people are, I think, sometimes have the misconception that the visionary integrator is it's just a complete buffer, and it's not. It's a collaborator. I'm here to implement your vision, but in a way that we can implement it and make it successful, and also sometimes question the vision. Because I don't know, John, if you're like me, but I had ideas. They weren't all gems, right? Some of the ideas I had after my integrator talked to me about them, I'm like, well, all right, maybe I need to rethink that idea a little bit, or it needs a little bit more baking before I bring it forward.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's good stuff. Yeah, transparency. Oh, the other point you brought up, Tony, was transparency, which I think the framework is really inclined to just naturally bring forward open and honest conversations about who's doing what, when are they doing it. You called it honesty, but it just creates a sense of transparency. So it's really good to hear you touch on that. You've had some on the journey you've had some external pressures as a business, right? I mean, so can you share some of that with the audience? I know that, when we first began the journey, we had a couple of major curveballs thrown at us.
Yeah, I can touch on that. We had so a lot of our clients are at least partially or fully tied to federal or state funding. A lot of government agencies and nonprofits that rely on grants and so forth. And in the early part of 2025, there were a lot of Department of Government Efficiency cuts to a lot of programs that funded some of our biggest clients to the tune of, I think, about $450,000 in unexpected cuts. I mean, those are cuts to contracts that we already had. They weren't, they were something that we just had no preparation for because that had just never happened. But those Doge cuts kind of came out of nowhere, and it was at the time that we were just about, we had just started investing in EOS, which is a financial commitment and a time commitment itself, and we decided to stay with with EOS because we thought, well, this is a good test. This is a good framework of like, what would the pre-EOS version of our company, what would we have decided to do? Would we have maybe just been just kind of more blindly optimistic and say like, well, I mean, things always work out, so I'm sure they'll work out this time too, or would we have been in a position to have those kind of tough decisions of what to do when this happens? I think EOS, even though we were very early in the EOS process at this point, I think it gave us a framework to have some difficult conversations and maybe make some decisions faster than we normally would have. I kind of feel like a 2 or 3 year version of our company would have never considered like letting people go who didn't have enough to do due to client budget cuts.
Yeah.
And yeah, and this version of our company could make those hard decisions in a way that made the rest of the staff not feel like panicked, like, oh no, they're letting people go, but confident that we were taking steps to ensure the financial solvency of the company, which we did. And the even with those pretty extreme and surprising cuts at the end of the year, we were still profitable. Our revenue was still where we wanted it to be. We just, we did a lot of a new business development push that we hadn't really been doing, and yet we're stronger now than we were before that happened. I don't want to give EOS full credit for that, but I think the staff acknowledges that EOS made making bad or making tough decisions out of a bad situation possible and in a way that everybody respected and understood. And I think that's so much stronger than if it was just, well, we trust John's gut.
Yeah, just to, Antonia, I'll get you to chime in here, just to clarify that point. EOS shouldn't get any credit. I mean, EOS gave you the framework. And what you did with that is you got focused on, okay, IDS, identify, discuss, and solve. What's the root? What can we do about it? What can solve it forever? Clear rocks. What do we have control over in this environment? Scorecard. What do we need to measure? And what are the measurements that we need to look at on a regular basis that give us as a team the red flag of when we need to dive in and take action? What actions do right people, right seats? What actions do we need to take personnel wise and get really clear about that? All of that is a proactive approach to managing your business, which what you're describing is much like most businesses before the framework of EOS, they didn't have a mechanism to do all that. And EOS gave you the mechanism. You all did all the hard work. Like you made the hard decisions. You got focused. You accomplished the rocks. You built a scorecard. You did all of that. And that's what your team responded to is, hey, they've got this. Like they are being proactive. We see it in them. At least that's my assumption. Tony, would you agree with that? Is that how the team felt?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a really good. That's a really good case in point. My case in point that I use in my history is COVID. When COVID hit, as an IT company back then, I thought, what are we going to do? Because the whole world's going home. Our revenue is going to be dramatically impacted. Our costs are going to go up astronomically because every client we have is going to need 10 times the amount of support to get all these people set up at home. And I was freaking out. Like, to be honest with you, I was like, what, the sky is falling. What are we going to do? We're going to have to. And my integrator, I remember the conversation as clear as it was yesterday, looks me in the eye and he goes, Mike, it's just an issue. We'll IDS it and solve it. Just an issue. Right. And that was a short way of saying we can solve anything. And we did. It wasn't easy, but we saw it. You guys did the same thing in your case study. In your example of the federal funding cuts. What a great example that is. So thanks for sharing that.
Another big obstacle we had at that time during those cuts was like John and I sat down. We're like, do we do this on our own or do we actually go through a coach, which is you, Mike? So because there is a cost to EOS. And, we had to think, like, are we going to spend that money on advertising or are we going to go do it with the EOS? And it's like a gym, right? If you go to the Michigan Athletic Club and spend $140 for a membership, you better bet you're going to get your butt up there and do it, work out. And we talked about, like, do we self-implement? And it just didn't make sense. Like, for one, I don't think I would have been just that motivated to been like, okay, I'm going to be the one to self-implement. But by the way, I probably need to take hours and hours of courses on how to be a coach and how to learn the rules of EOS and things like that. And I didn't want to take that on. And again, a little selfish reasons. I already had a relationship with you, Mike. We had a relationship with you.
Yeah,
Wanted to do that, but
it's a good point, though. I mean, and I talk to business owners every day, and they'll bring up that question, and my answer is always the same. You absolutely can self-implement, and there is if you know in general, the majority of companies that self-implement don't get as much out of EOS, right? In some cases, they fail on the journey. And why is that? It's it's because they don't have anybody internally that knows the tools, knows the processes, can teach them, coach them, facilitate the discussion, help hold the team accountable. And unless they have that, self-implementation is incredibly difficult. Not to say that it doesn't happen, right? Probably, I don't know, 30%, 40% of companies that self-implement do it flawlessly, but it's not the majority, right? The analogy I always draw is like if I was trying to learn to become better at golf, I can watch a ton of YouTube videos and I can go to the range every day. And I'm probably not going to get that much better unless I hire an expert, a pro, to work with me and say, okay, there's some foundational things, some principles, and some things that we need to get right. You need to learn at the foundational level in order to make improvement. Right. That's the difference I think between the two.
Well, but we also, a lot of what we offer as a company, companies who hire us, they could do it on their own too, theoretically, right? Because, like, I mean, a lot of our clients are, web design clients, or maybe we run their social media campaigns or things like that. These are all things that our clients theoretically could self-implement, and some of them do, and some of us, do successfully. But the advantage of hiring a company that's done it before is that we know all the things that could go right, all the things that could go wrong. We have those examples in our head of just the so many years of experience. And so, I mean, how many times when we're having our meetings, Mike, do you say something like, "Oh yeah, I just dealt with a company that had this exact issue. Here's how they solved it." Or actually, 4 years ago, this company that I worked with went the other direction, and here's what happened there. And it's just that invaluable, you know, encyclopedic brain of like, "Oh, I've seen this before. I know what the best solution is." And that's what we offer to our clients too. It's not that they couldn't, go to Wix.com and make a website themselves and figure it out, but they wouldn't have our experience to do it right and get the best results from it.
That's a
Sometimes
really good
expertise
point.
is valuable, believe it or
Yeah,
not.
that's a really good point. And in today's day and age with AI, the availability of AI, you can probably draw that same analogy across a lot of industries. You have the ability, we have the power at our fingertips to really research anything and do a lot for ourselves, but that doesn't mean that we're going to necessarily get the same results, right? So having that expertise, like you said in your example of a company that has done countless marketing and branding exercises and knows the things to avoid, knows how to maximize the message, knows how to unify the message, knows how to convey the message, has seen it conveyed poorly and has seen it conveyed well, to walk you down that path. That's why it's worth the investment in a company like Addis Enterprises, which is not to say you couldn't try all those things yourself. It's just, would you get the same result?
Right. Yeah, we didn't invent most of these tools. We try to tell clients too, like, um, things that we make for you, you do get to take with you. You're not even tied to us forever. Um, but I think that our honesty about that also is why clients stay with us for 5, 10, 15 plus years. Because,
That's
you know, we're,
great.
yeah, we're telling them like, hey, we're not the only people out there, but I feel like we make things comfortable. And um, I don't know, you just got to, marketing is like, I mean, it is a part of building your business, right? It is part of the investment in what you're trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish. And if you don't have a team that you can just trust and feel comfortable with and know that they have your best interests at heart, you're not going to stay with them very long. And so we take it as our biggest point of pride, the number of clients who have stayed with us for so long, and like maybe we've built like their second or third website, or or more with them, which almost never happens. Usually a marketing agency, like they'll build you a product and then, 5 years later, when you get sick of that product, you look and see who else is out there because you want a new product. And the number of clients who come back to us to have us redo our own product I've just never worked anywhere like that. It is definitely not the norm in our industry.
But I think it gets back to, in EOS terms, your uniques as a business and your core focus. And, the fact that your model is based on a deep understanding of your client, right? It's not just, this isn't a transaction. This is a relationship, with your client, understanding them at a very deep level so that you can convey the values beneath the messaging, if I'm saying it right.
I agree.
Yeah, that's powerful. And the proof is in what you said, that your clients have stayed with you through multiple iterations of their branding and their website. And that's not industry standard by any means. So, and with that in mind, if a listener out there is looking for a marketing branding company to partner with and they want to get a hold of you and talk more about Addis Enterprises, how would they reach out to you? What's the best way?
Most people go to the aenow.com, so aenow.com website and reach us through there. Or call us or, stalk us on LinkedIn. I mean, you can find us. We're out there.
aenow.com and or LinkedIn or drive by. They're right on Mount Hope in the beautiful city of Lansing here. I go by your office frequently. And they are Tony and John, integrator and visionary for Addis Enterprises. Fellas, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed this conversation. Time has flown by. I appreciate you making some time today.
Thanks for having us, Mike. Appreciate it.
And thank you all for listening to Getting a Grip on the Michigan Business Network. We'll be back next time. We'll see you all on the flip side.